You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.
The Chicago Bears can be big-time players once again in free agency. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So Bears fans, as it currently stands at the moment, the Chicago Bears rank 9th in 2024 cap space with $46.9 million to spend. With just a couple of more moves, though, the Chicago Bears and Ryan Poles could even have more money to spend to add more talent to the Chicago Bears roster. And personally, Bears fans, this is exactly what I expect GM Ryan Poles to do, is to add some more quality free agents to this roster and to fill some of the major holes that the Chicago Bears currently have on this roster. So on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, I'll be going over some of the top free agent options that Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears could pursue during free agency. And as always, Bears fans, as I'm going through these list of players that I think the Chicago Bears should pursue, go ahead and engage with me down below in the comment section and let me know who you want Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to pursue during the 2024 free agency period. The first player I have on my list, Bears fans, is running back Saquon Barkley. Yes, running back Saquon Barkley. I know what you guys are thinking. Well, Keek, running back is not a major need for the Chicago Bears. We have Khalil Herbert. We have Roschon Johnson. We could probably actually draft another running back in the 2024 NFL draft. But Bears fans, we've all heard the smoke around Saquon Barkley and the Chicago Bears actually becoming a Chicago Bear during this next free agency period. Obviously, we also heard that smoke last year as well, but then obviously the New York Giants decided to franchise tag Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley would be absolutely amazing on the Chicago Bears. He's only 26 years old. According to Spot Track, market value is around $6.6 million. So that's not super expensive. And I do want to let you guys know that just because I'm listing off these Spot Track numbers and the market values for these different players doesn't mean that these numbers are accurate. But according to Spot Track, his market value currently sits at $6.6 million, which once again is not super expensive for a running back. And to me, I am fine with adding a running back to this roster to complement either Justin Fields or even if you go with Caleb Williams, you need a strong running game. Obviously, Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson are both really good running backs, but I feel like if you can add a guy like Saquon Barkley for a cheap $6.6 million a year, I think to me personally, that would be a no-brainer. When you look at a guy like Saquon Barkley, he's explosive, he's strong, he's elusive, right? And he would fit perfectly in what the Chicago Bears are trying to do, and that is to run the football. Of course, when you're talking about a guy like Saquon Barkley, a lot of people will bring up his injury history, which can sometimes be a concern. A lot of people say, well, I feel like Saquon Barkley peaked during his rookie season, which can somewhat be true. But I feel like there's a whole lot left in the tank when you look at a guy like Saquon Barkley. I think he just needs a change of scenery from the New York Giants. And I think, once again, there's a lot of smoke about him joining the Chicago Bears during this free agency period. And I personally wouldn't be opposed to it. It just depends on the price. If we're talking about $6.6 million a year, I think that would be an easy add for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. And even though we do have Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson, if you can elevate that position even more, I think Saquon Barkley would be a great add for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears this offseason. The second player on my list, Bears fans, is center Connor Williams. And I've talked about Connor Williams quite a bit. Obviously, he did tear his ACL back in week 14 of this past season for the Miami Dolphins. But prior to that, he was one of the best centers in the NFL. He's only 26 years old. And according to Spot Track, his market value is set at $13.5 million. And obviously, I'm willing to pay the price for a dominant center in the National Football League, especially for the Chicago Bears. Once again, I'll repeat again, I've said it many times right here on the podcast, but we cannot go into next season without addressing the center position. We cannot go into next season with Lucas Patrick as the starting center for the Chicago Bears. So obviously you can look at getting a guy like Connor Williams. Once again, he's only 26 years old, or you can still go into the 2024 NFL draft with that need and draft a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson as well. Out of Oregon. Either way, the Chicago Bears desperately need to upgrade the center position on this Chicago Bears offensive line. I think Connor Williams would definitely fit that mold. The third guy on my list, and this would definitely be a dream scenario, this would be Ryan Poles splash signing for this free agency period, and that is edge rusher Brian Burns. He is 25 years old. According to Spot Track, his market value sits at $21.7 million. So it would be a hefty price tag. Obviously, I think the relationship between him and the Carolina Panthers is pretty much done. I think he expects to be a free agent. Maybe the Carolina Panthers surprise us a little bit and end up franchise tagging him. But I think if he can make it into the open market, I think Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears should inquire about bringing Brian Burns to the Chicago Bears to pair alongside Montez Sweat. I feel like that duo would be absolutely outstanding for the Chicago Bears defensive line. Obviously, Brian Burns would elevate the Chicago Bears defensive line. I think this would make for a dominant defensive front as well. Obviously, you have to spend a lot of money, but once again, he's only 25 years old, still has a whole lot left in the tank. And once again, I think this would be a no-brainer to pair with Montez Sweat. So the Bears should definitely be all in on a guy like Brian Burns this offseason. The next guy on my list, Bears fans, is defensive tackle Justin Madubuike. Once again, he's 26 years old, and according to Spot Track, market value sits at $20.3 million. Obviously, in a perfect world, in a dream scenario for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears, we'd be able to get Justin Madubuike and Brian Burns, and you talk about one of the most dominant defensive lines in the entire National Football League if you were able to sign both of those guys to the Chicago Bears defensive line. But unfortunately, I don't think the Bears have that much cap space or that much money to make both of those moves. Maybe it can happen, maybe not, but it's just a tad bit unrealistic. Let's say you miss out on a guy like Brian Burns. Then all your focus, if I'm Ryan Poles, all your focus can go in to adding a guy like Justin Madubuike. Once again, he's one of the best young defensive tackles in the entire National Football League. The dude is a game wrecker, a game changer. He is constantly in the backfield. He would definitely make the Chicago Bears defensive line a whole lot better. He adds so much value as a pass rusher on the interior of that defensive line. I think pairing him with Montez Sweat would also be a lethal combination for the Chicago Bears defensive line. So once again, if you miss out on a guy like Brian Burns, I would definitely go after a guy like Justin Madubuike this offseason. The next guy on my list, Bears fans, and this is definitely a logical scenario for the Chicago Bears, and that's going out and getting edge rusher Chase Young. He is still only 24 years old, and according to Spot Track, his market value sits at $13.6 million. So obviously a way cheaper option compared to going out and getting like a guy like Brian Burns that sits at $21.7 million. And obviously there's a whole lot of rumors about Chase Young already being interested and the Bears being interested in him coming to Chicago once free agency opens up. We all understand that he is basically just a rental for the San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl push. So obviously once free agency opens, once the new offseason hits for the NFL, I think he will, in fact, be a free agent. And I definitely think the Chicago Bears should definitely be interested. Once again, he's only 24 years old. You can pair him back with Montez Sweat. Obviously, they have a good relationship dating back to their time with the Washington Commanders. So that's obviously a plus when you look at that. And Chase Young still has a whole lot to offer. I think he's still a very good pass rusher. I just think he needs to be in the right situation, in the right scheme. And I think what the Chicago Bears are building and what Matt Eberflus calling the defensive plays and how this defense was playing at the end of the season, I think adding a guy like Chase Young would be a perfect fit for the Chicago Bears defense. And then you talk about this scenario. Obviously, I said you can't really sign Brian Burns and Justin Madubuike. That would be two big contracts. I just think that's an unrealistic option. But if you're able to sign Chase Young for $12 to $13 million and sign Justin Madubuike, maybe you would be able to make that happen if you're Ryan Poles in the Chicago Bears. So if you're able to land Chase Young and Justin Madubuike in this free agency period, that would be a huge win for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. But I definitely think Ryan Poles and the Bears should definitely take a good, long, hard look at a guy like Chase Young this offseason. The next player on my list, Bears fans, is free safety Antoine Winfield Jr. He's only 25 years old, and according to Spot Track, market value sits at $18.4 million, and that is a hefty price for a free safety. And once again, I look at a guy like Antoine Winfield Jr. as an Eddie Jackson replacement. Eddie Jackson could very well take a pay cut and come back and be the free safety for the Chicago Bears. But if you're looking for a younger and an upgrade at the free safety position, Winfield Jr. would definitely be that for the Chicago Bears defense. This guy is great in coverage. He's a hard hitter. He's everything that you want in a free safety. He has been excellent for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the only thing that may stop the Chicago Bears from getting a guy like Antoine Winfield Jr. is that, once again, his market value set for $18.4 million, right? So that's a really hefty price. But maybe if we can get a good deal, maybe he brings that deal down, which I doubt it. I know he's trying to get paid, and rightfully so, but maybe if we can get that price down, maybe we can add a big-time player like Antoine Winfield Jr. So I think Ryan Poles and Chicago Bears should also take a look at adding a guy like Winfield Jr. because it would be huge for the Chicago Bears defense this offseason. The next player on my list, Bears fans, is tight end Colby Parkinson. He is 25 years old, and according to Spot Track, his market value sits at $6.6 million. And the only reason why I added a guy like Parkinson because he has connection to Shane Waldron dating back to Seattle. Obviously, Shane Waldron, he likes to use those 2 tight end sets. So the Chicago Bears may very well be in a search for a new tight end too. Maybe they do keep Robert Tonyan to just keep paired up with Cole Kmet, but they could also look in free agency and NFL draft to maybe replace Robert Tonyan for a new tight end too. And obviously, if you add a guy like Kobe Parkinson, he understands the offense. He understands what Shane Waldron is trying to do. And Kobe Parkinson is not the only guy the Bears can look at. They can also look at a guy like Noah Fant as well. They are both free agents coming up in this 2024 free agency period. So the Bears will definitely have their options. And when you look at a guy like Kobe Parkinson and Noah Fant, they both understand what Shane Waldron is trying to do, dating back to their time with the Seattle Seahawks. So I think either route you go, I think this would be good little pickups for cheap to be the tight end 2 of the Chicago Bears next season. The final player on my list, Bears fans, and I would definitely be excited about this move, is wide receiver Gabe Davis. He stands at 6'2", 210 pounds, right? He's only 24 years old. And according to Spot Track, his market value sits at $13.6 million. So not too bad. We talked about this before right here on the podcast, but the only dependable wide receiver that we have right now is DJ Moore. Obviously, Darnell Mooney is probably not going to be re-signed, and he's going to go look elsewhere to find a new team during this free agency period. Of course, we have Equanimeous St. Brown as well, but he's more of a blocking receiver. Of course, we have Bayless Jones Jr., and we have Tyler Scott coming back. But I'm talking about we need to find a new wide receiver 2 here in Chicago, and Gabe Davis would be the perfect option. In 4 years with the Buffalo Bills, he was excellent. He had 27 touchdowns, and he was just very dependable for Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills offense. So I would definitely be interested if I were Ryan Poles and a guy like Gabe Davis. I think he would be an instant upgrade at that wide receiver 2 position. Once again, staying at 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a guy that can win those 50-50 balls. He has strong hands. He's a good route runner as well. So I think Gabe Davis would be the perfect fit in Chicago for the Chicago Bears offense alongside DJ Moore. Bears fans, some other notable free agents that Ryan Poles and the Bears can look at this offseason is edge rusher Bryce Huff, center guard Evan Brown. He also played under Shane Waldron as well while in Seattle. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel, edge rusher Josh Allen, and also wide receiver Tyler Boyd would also be an interesting option if you're looking for a new wide receiver 2 here in Chicago. But overall, I think it's going to be an exciting offseason for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. So overall, how do you guys like my list of free agents that I think Ryan Poles and Chicago Bears should pursue this offseason? Let me know down below in the comment section. And also let me know what free agents you want Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to sign during this free agency period. Let me know down below in the comment section. But once again, Bears fans, Ryan Poles and Chicago Bears definitely have a whole lot of money to spend. I think that's what Ryan Poles is going to do. He's going to attack this free agency period hard because he's trying to upgrade this roster. And I think he understands that the Bears are really close to being a true playoff contender in the National Football League. So I think he's going to fill some major holes that the Chicago Bears currently have on this roster. And I'm really looking forward to see what Ryan Poles and Chicago Bears do this offseason once free agency opens up. But Bears fans, before I let you guys go, make sure you continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for an all new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You've been listening to Geek on the Mic, a podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Thanks, guys, and bear down.